Okay, everybody, we're live. How are you doing? This is Excel VBA for Beginners, 30 real-world problems and solutions. If you're watching live, can you let me know in the chat if you can see me and you can hear me? How's the sound, by the way? Not coming through very clearly in my cans, but hopefully you can hear me. Let me know in the chat. So let's get back into the random problem generator, aka Tiger's Tombola, and let's see what we're going to be doing today. And remember, all these tasks are based on real world problems that I encounter every day in my work as an Excel VBA developer. That's the purpose of the series, to bring you 30 practical examples that you're going to use all the time in your code, and it's going to take your coding to the next level. We're going to have a bit of fun in the process, hopefully. Okay, right, well, this one, not absolutely sure what this is, but this says to me that Tiger's Tombola has had something of a malfunction. So let's go ahead and see if it happens again. If not, we may have to manually choose one. Phil says we can see and hear you. Anup says nice outfit, loud and clear. Yeah, I'm not in the standard issue black shirt today. And we've got another winning ball coming down here. What is this going to say? Is it going to say the same thing? Here we go. Move data from a template to a database. So I'll have to see what is going on in the back end of Tiger's Tombola, but this is what we're going to be doing today. And once again, it's something I've done so many times in my Excel VBA career. If you're moving data around a file at all, and let's face it, when we're using VBA, we're often moving data around. If you're doing that at all, we're going to learn how to do it properly. We're going to learn how to do it in the most efficient way, the way I do it in my project. So if you watch on the replay, you might want to skip through this bit. We're just going to say hello to everybody in the chat. Once again, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Andrew is with us, Andrew Button, Phil Thomas. Phil Thomas, a Leeds fan. That's football or soccer for the people the other side of the pond. Leeds have just been promoted to the Premier League. Well done. Maria is with us. Good to see you again, Maria. Moving down, Matthias is with us. Anup, welcome. Anup, Raphael, Zana, welcome. DC is with us. Welcome. DC has said, DC has just invested in one of these, which is an IKEA pinboard thing. I don't get any affiliate marketing commission from this, but yeah, well done, DC. They are very useful indeed. Alan's with us. Welcome, Alan. Henrik to Florin. Daniel is with us, 97 degrees Fahrenheit. Daniel, are we going to break the 100-degree barrier in this series? I should hope so. I should hope so. Mireille, I'm going to say Mireille. I'm going to have a go at pronouncing your name. Terribly sorry if I haven't got it. Tuning in from Nashville. First time, I think. Good to see you with us. Welcome. And I think we've covered everybody there. Okay, Biana tuning in at the bottom, and Nikki too. Biana, how are you doing? Haven't seen you for a while. Good to have you with us today. Right. Let's get into what we're doing. So we're going to close down the random problem generator. I'm going to be having a word with the random problem generator later to establish exactly what is going on there. We're going to have to debug that. So we're moving data from a template to a database. So it has to be this kind of situation. So you have to have some kind of what I call a form, but a form doesn't have to be a user form. It has to be a setup you have in Excel for collecting data. So I'm going to say name, age, job, country you live in, and then we're going to say favorite YouTube channel. And I'm going to pick somebody from the chat in a second. If you want me to pick you, say pick me in the chat now, and I will input your details while I try to explain what's going on here. Alt-HRW 15 and F4 to repeat the last action. In fact, let's go Alt-HOH 30 here and then Alt-HW just to wrap the text there. So you're going to have some kind of form here. Doesn't have to be a user form. It's just a setup, a mechanism in the spreadsheet for collecting data. This is one of the most common usages of Excel. Very simply, just to collect data. I do projects where all we're doing is setting up a spreadsheet to collect data, do it in a certain way. So we want to pick up some information. Anup says, pick me. So Anup, it's going to be you. What's your job, Anup? And what's your age as well? I'm just going to guess here. I'll put your age and your job here. This is like some kind of elaborate data collection scam, isn't it? I promise it's not. So Anup's job. So Anup, let me know what your job is and what your age is. Very good. So Anup is 40. Thank you for this responsiveness. Banking. So I'm going to say banking analyst. Anup, country. Have you said India? There we go. And favorite YouTube channel. Anup, you're a man after my own heart. The favorite YouTube channel is, of course, Tiger Spreadsheet Solutions. So let's get that inputted there. And we need some text wrap here as well. So Alt-HW is going to wrap the text. So we've got our input mechanism. I'm going to call that a form, and it's another discussion, the best way to collect data in Excel. I love just doing it with a spreadsheet. A user form, yes, I've got a series on user forms, but using a user form brings quite a few problems with it. Okay, so we've got a form, and then we've got a database. Now I'm going to put these both on the same sheet, but in real life, Alt-HW3 here, in real life, you'll probably have this on a different sheet or maybe in a different file, and we'd use VBA to move data from the form into a database. A very common job. I'm doing it all the time on my Excel VBA projects. Control C here, Control Alt V and E to transpose the data. So we've got the column headers. The column headers match our input cells on the form. So we want to transfer the data across here. This is our challenge today. Let me know in the chat, what's our concept here? What tools from our toolkit are going to help us get this very common task done? Put some ideas in the chat now. You don't have to have a complete idea. Just throw some ideas into the chat. How would you begin to get this going? Welcome to Azim John Urunoff as well. Is it your first stream? Great to have you with us today. Henrik says Matthias has been working on some code to evolve Tiger's Tombola, to evolve the random problem generator. I've had some emails of Matthias and I've said to him that it's so useful to have this random problem generator. Whenever I do a training session in Excel, I do training sessions in all kinds of different contexts. I always use the random problem generator for doing something, often for choosing somebody to do something, to answer a question or something like that. And Phil, sorry, you're just too late. I couldn't pick you, but I'll pick you for something else later. So we've got some ideas coming in here. DC is saying, copy, post, transpose, and probably want some data validation. Good. Yep. So good ideas here from DC. So DC is saying on these cells, absolutely, we'd want data validation on these cells. What's data validation? Well, data validation limits the inputs to a particular cell. That means we can be more sure about what data is coming in. That means we set up the spreadsheet so it's going to work. Yeah, if we can predict what the inputs are, it's much more likely for formulae, etc., to work further down the line. And DC is saying, yeah, we could copy, paste, and transpose, but I want us to think in terms of having multiple inputs here. So we'd have our first input on this line, then we'd clear the form, then we'd have our next input on the next line. What coding structures are going to help us to do this? Zana says record the macro. Anup also says record the macro. These are all possibilities. Today, I'm going to use, we're going to just try some organic coding today. Organic code, remember, our different sources of code. Organic code is where, you know the syntax, broadly speaking, you can go ahead, put it straight into the Excel VBA editor. Okay, so I'm going to insert a module here. And as always, guys, make sure you work along with me. Coding is a skill. I don't know. Is it fun just watching this without working along? I don't know. I watch plenty of stuff on YouTube where I just watch people doing things, often playing computer games. I was watching someone playing Grand Theft Auto today. I have no idea why I was doing that. But maybe that's what people do. I don't know. But it's going to be much better from a learning perspective for you to actually work along with us here. It's a skill. You have to be doing it to get better at it. So what's our basic construct here? Basic construct for data transfer. So let's build, as always, from the basic ideas, is very simply A equals B. We could say range, for example, range A1 equals range B1. So go ahead now, if you're not familiar with this construct, go ahead and just try it out in the VBA editor. This is how we transfer data around the file. Yes, copy pasting is possible, but we know from the Excel VBA for Beginners 30 for 30 series, the Absolute Beginners series that we did at the start of the lockdown phase, copy pasting data is not as efficient as this direct transfer. So we're going to try to leverage that and employ this direct transfer here. How can let's delete this row. Alt-H-D-R, delete the row there. I'm going to delete this row as well, just to make a bit more room on your screenshot. So very simple. I want the name to be transferred into the first line of the database. If you're watching on replay, stop the video, try to create that code yourself. I'm going to go ahead first and let's say a named range here. Why would you use a named range here? Well, it's going to be an anchor cell. It's going to be a cell that we're going to be referencing a lot when we're using this application. So let's give it a named range. That's going to allow us to reference it easier. And if we have structural changes on this sheet, then the named range is going to make it more likely that things are still going to work. So I'd say something like D start, data start. I'm using the shorthand way to create a name. Have to hit the enter key. I can see the name in the name box in the top left hand corner. Always check Alt-M-N on the Windows PC. Has your name been created there? So we've got our anchor cell. So I'm now going to use that anchor cell and say range D start dot offset 10 equals, and then what cell is this? This is C3. So we're just getting started here. Okay, that's our basic data transfer mechanism. So let's go ahead. How's it looking? Sense checking the code. Looks okay. F5 key to run the code. And I can see Anup's name appeared there. And again, if you're watching on replay, just play with this. So what happens when we change this to D4, C4 even? Play the code again. I can see Anup's age coming in there. So this is our basic construct here. So a couple of things for us to think about. We know that we want to build up this database. We're going to have lines of data coming in here. So it would be nice for us to dynamically find, we've done this in previous videos in the series, dynamically find the next empty row. We know there's different ways for us to do that. Let's go ahead and use one of them. I'm going to use a variable here. Let's say next row. I'm going to use a long variable. You could get away with an integer variable. A long variable is going to work for bigger numbers over 30,000. And let's go ahead and define this. So next row. And I'm going to say equals cells. Rows.count, and then we're going to be in the second column here, the second column being the first column of the database, if that makes sense. Cells rows.count to dot ends Excel up dot row. Is that going to work? Is that going to work? Almost looks too concise, that using the F8 key to step through, and we have 12 into that variable there. So just using the F8 key, you can also go debug and step into to allow you to step through the code, stepping through the code, hovering over the cursor, and we can see next row there. That's 12. So we just want +1 here. Okay, that's going to give us the next empty row. So now we can just say next row here, although clearly we're going to need an adjustment. So if I say next row minus 11, is that going to do it for us? Or shall we do this a different way? Let's say next row minus 11. Is that going to do it? Let's see if I play this code now. Okay, just playing the code and I can see the entries going in there. So we set up that basic dynamic mechanism. This is an important part of data transfer, but it's not actually the main focus today. I want to get you thinking about a different way to do this. What we could do, of course, is just now go ahead and stack these up and say, okay, so this is the name. And then the next one's going to be the age. Okay, then we can just make some simple changes here. That's going to be one column further across. So we can change this to 1. And then this is going to be C5. And then this is going to be age here. I'm going to clear out this data. So you should be able to see this entry appear in row 12 when I hit the F5 key. And we can see the entry appearing there. Going to hit it again. Okay, so don't get me wrong. This is nice. This is nice. And you know what? This is going to work absolutely fine. If you want to extend this mechanism, it's going to work fine. But I'm going to show you how I do it these days. You know what? I just got tired of seeing in the VBA editor, seeing this repeated structure. So sometimes I'll be transferring 10, 15 different pieces of data, and I'll have this structure repeated 10 or 15 different times. That got on my nerves, and we know having repeated structures in code, we should try to avoid that as far as possible. But there was something else, which was when I wanted to add a new piece of data to this data transfer, say you add another piece of data to your form down here, when I added another piece of data, I wanted to be able to quickly update that without going into the VBA editor to update the code. So this is my challenge for you now. Let me know in the chat. This is my challenge for you. How can we accomplish this without having to stack up the same line of code again and again? There's a specific way for us to do it. I have demonstrated it on the channel in the past. So let me know in the chat, what should we be bringing to the table here? What additional concepts can we bring to the table? Don't worry, this is a high-level question. So if you have no idea, don't worry about it. We're going to work through it. Stay with us. Make sure you work through it yourself. But tomorrow, of course, is Monday. And Monday means it's Members Monday. And Members Monday is our Excel VBA learning community. If you want to take your Excel VBA to professional level, if you're interested in moving your career towards Excel VBA, whether that's in a permanent job, whether that's as a freelancer, whether you want to start just doing projects informally rather, as a bit of a side hustle, you are going to love Members Monday. We're meeting every Monday. We're going through projects from a professional perspective. So we're not just looking at formulae and code, we're looking at all the issues around projects that help you to execute Excel VBA projects in a professional manner. It's Members Monday. It's our Excel VBA learning community. We've got some members in the chat, the people with the little symbols after their names. They are our members, and they're very nice. I assure you, we'd love to have you in Members Monday. Click join below this video if you'd like to get involved, and we will be having a session tomorrow straight after this live stream, of course. So let's get into the chat. Does anybody have any ideas? So DC is saying we can use a loop, definitely. Use a variable and a counter, add a counter. Yep, these are all good values. These are all good ideas here. Got some other good ideas in the chat. Good stuff. Yeah, the basic construct. Yeah, counting through. Okay, if we're going to loop though, what are we going to loop through? What are we going to loop through? And there's one element missing from the suggestions, some very good ideas, but one element missing, which is we're going to have a table here to support data transfer. Table to support data transfer. Right here. And as I said, this is how I set it up now. This is the actual mechanism that I use to get things done. So how does it work? So we say data item, take caps lock off first, data item, and then we say origin, and then destination. And we're just going to use cells, I think, in this demonstration, though in reality, you're going to have to think about which sheets is the data on, the origin sheet and the destination sheet. So for example, name. The origin is, well, the name is in C3. And then with the destination, all we're going to do is give the offset. Yeah. So what is the offset in the database for this piece of data? The name, that's an offset of 0 because that's in the same column as our anchor cell. The age, that has an offset of 1 because that's one column further across. So we're just taking that offset and we're going to type it into the table here. Alt-H-W there. How can I fix this? Alt-H-O-W, let's have 15 here as well. Okay, F4 and F4. Destination offset. So this is 0 columns away. Name, age, so the origin is C4. And the destination offset is, this is one column further across. Country, and let's just do these 3 for the time being. And I might let you, for your homework, for your assignment, to actually scale up this mechanism to get it working. So this is the basic idea. Now, just to repeat, you shouldn't be showing this to your customer. I'm keeping it on one sheet for ease of demonstration. This could be on a supporting sheet, and not to labor the point, but if you had a form, an input form, that would probably be on a different sheet to our database as well. So I'm not advocating this as an ideal file structure. You've got to be focusing relentlessly on file structure. Good file structure means much less stress and indeed much less code. So I hope you're thinking as best you can about how to structure a file. But the idea is, now we've got this table, it means we don't need the repeated construct here in the code. How about that? This really is the piece of magic here. If we have the table, we don't need the repeated construct in the code, but we do need, and here's the suggestions from the chat, we do need a loop and a variable to control the loop. And here we go. Now I'm going to use a range variable. I'm just going to get rid of these annotations for the time being. So it's going to be for each Chris cell in. Okay. Then what's our range here? So it's E4 to E6. Now I'm going to begin with, definitely, I'm going to hard code these references in, but you know what I'm going to say? You could make these references dynamic, which means you could just add to the table and then another line of code would be added. In fact, before the end, we're going to do that just because it's cool. E4 to E6. E4 to E6. Okay, and then next Chris cell. So we've opened the loop. We've got to make sure we close the loop, or we're going to forget to do it later. That's going to be problematic for us. So now what's going to happen? Well, it's going to go through the loop 3 times because we're talking about 3 cells. It's not going to do anything particularly useful at the moment. Just going to clear out the data quickly and let's just see what happens at the moment. I'm just going to hit F5 here, hit the F8 key rather, and it's going to work through. It's going to work through it 3 times, but it's pretty much doing the same thing each time at the moment. So we've got to make an adjustment here. So rather than having, where are we going to start here? Yeah, there's two pieces of syntax that are critical for us. It's this positioner syntax. That's telling us how many columns to go across. We want the age to be in the next column and the job to be in the next column. And then the second critical piece of syntax is, what cell are we taking this information from? Are you linking this all together? Those 2 pieces of syntax we've already pre-programmed in here. So it should be, he says with some trepidation, we'll see how we go. It should be as simple as saying this. So the origin. So we can now say Chris cell dot offset. And it's going to be on the same row, 0, 1 there. Okay, something like this. And then over here, we can say Chris cell. Let's have an underscore here. I'm only putting the underscore in for display purposes. You don't absolutely need it. Dot offset. And this is going to be 0, 2, I believe. So this is the column. Yes, yeah, that should be it. Let's see how we do. Now, what on earth just happened there? What on earth just happened? Well, we know the basic mechanism. If you need to revise the basic mechanism, go back 10 minutes in the stream just to see how the basic mechanism works. But we've substituted in, instead of hard coding the column number, we've substituted in this reference here. So what's going to happen? We're looping through E4 to E6. So we're looping through these cells here. Excel is going to start on C4. Now, if we offset away from C4 by 2 columns, where do we get to? 1 column, 2 columns. Takes us to G4 and a value of 0. Whoa, that's helpful, a value of 0, because for the first input, we want a value of 0 because it is 0 columns across, 0 columns across from our anchor cell here. How cool is that? So let's just see if this works. I'm going to clear this cell. We're just going to focus on the column positioning first. So I'm hitting the F8 key now. Okay, so Chris cell, the first one is name. Yeah, that's the piece of data in the range. Then Chris cell offset 0, 2 gives us a value of 0. I'm just hovering the cursor over the offset method here. So what's going to happen? Well, keep an eye on B12. And we can see we've got Anup's name in there. How cool is that? But it gets better. Now hitting the F8 key, now we're on age, which is we've gone down 1 row. Remember, we're looping through 3 rows, E4 to E6. So what's Chris L.offset 0, 2? So the column 2 columns across from column E, which is our first cell, we've now got a value of 1 in there. So where's the data going to go? Stop the video. Where's the data going to go now? Can you work it out? Hitting F8, we can see age has appeared there. How cool is that? One more time, keep your eye on column D here, and we can see job has appeared there. Not bad, not bad. So hopefully you understand how the column positioning is working, but there's more. It's not just the column positioning, is it? We're also getting different pieces of data in. So how's that working? Well, that's the second part of this syntax here. So we're saying to Excel, yeah, no hard-coded range for the range. Start at Chris cell and go 1 column across from Chris cell. 1 column across and take the value in the cell. There it is. There is our origin cell. So it's going to take the first piece of data from C3, the second from C4, and the third from C5. Not very impressive on a small scale. But if you've got 25 pieces of data, I've done this with many pieces of data, you can very quickly scale this up. And the last thing we'll do is put a little dynamic function in here to ensure that however many rows you add to this, they're going to be included in the mechanism. 29 viewers and 12 likes. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Welcome to Harish Nada tuning in. I haven't seen you in the chat before, Harish. So fantastic to have you with us today. Henrik says, very useful, Chris. Good to know. Zana says, this is great. I will use this at work soon for sure. You know, on the channel, I only show you stuff that I use. That's why people are like, why don't you do an XLOOKUP tutorial? I don't use XLOOKUP. Yeah. Not because I'm a dinosaur, just because no one's really using it yet. Yeah. And people are always like, why don't you do like Power Query? Well, I haven't really used it much. Yeah. But then there's mechanisms like this, which are so cool and just speed things up so much, so practical. I use this all the time. Yeah, this week I'm going to be rolling out this mechanism. Yeah, I only share with you stuff that I have road tested for years and stuff that has allowed me to have a successful career in Excel VBA. So finally, how can we get rid of this hard-coded value here? So again, what concepts are going to help us here? Range. This allows us to dynamically define range to work with. So once again, if you watch on replay, stop the video, see if you can do this yourself. So we're going to say, and once again, you could argue for naming one of the ranges here. So we're going to start in E4. And then we're going to end in the row before the next empty row. Next empty row, what does that mean in English? What does that translate to in VBA? Dot end Excel down. Excel down, and I know just from experience we need 2 brackets at the end there. Doing my sense check, looks reasonable. Now we should get a bit of a wow moment here. Job, age, country, this should be job. Now we can go country, yeah. And then country, what's that in? That's in C6. I can work that out by looking at the input mechanism, or I can just work it out from looking at the table. And that's going to be, again, easy to work out. That's going to be 3 columns across. So we've now got 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces of data that should go in. I'm going to zoom out here. Okay, let's run the code. Again, if you're watching on replay, stop and try to guess what's going to happen here. So I'm going to hit play now, and we can see we've got 4 pieces of data have gone in. So finally, can you get it working for another piece of data? I'm just going to say favorite channel for the favorite YouTube channel here. And then let's say C7, 4 columns across. You see how I'm just scaling up this mechanism. I love it. It saved me so much time. This has over the years, so much time and stress. Hitting the F5 key, and we can see additional data has gone in, including that additional entry that I just made there. And I'm just going to do it one more time for celebration. Punch the air if you got it working, and there it is. And we can go ahead and keep running it as many times as you like. It's an absolute pleasure to be able to share this stuff with you. Let me know in the chat, are you going to be using this week? I know for one, I will be using this at some point this week. I'm working on 2 or 3 projects at the moment. One of the projects I spoke about yesterday is a payroll mechanism for a company here in the UK. So they've got 6 or 7 contractors filling out timesheets. They want to be able to put those timesheets in a file, click a button, and then Excel does all the processing. That is a job for Excel VBA. I'm going to be using these exact mechanisms to move data around the file. Let me know in the chat, guys. Are you excited about this one? And do you have any final questions for today? Anup says, just brilliant, something out of the box. I mean, I'm happy you think it's brilliant, Anup, but this just comes from experience, 10 years of doing these projects and looking at code and thinking, oh, there must be a way to have less code. What's the leanest possible approach for this problem? And for me, it's better to have less code in the VBA editor and a bit more in the worksheet where we can easily manipulate things. Okay. Yeah, DC with some good stuff in the chat. So make sure you follow DC's comments there. Good stuff. Anup says, I'm popular now. Thanks. Absolutely. Anup, anybody who's watching is popular with me. This is all good stuff. Okay. Paul says, cool, good stuff. And Zana says, yep, I'm going to use this week. I'm adding 57 business rules into Trillium, and we'll keep track of the ones that we are done. Good stuff. And Phil says, will be good for managing big training meetings. Yeah, like the general applicability of this mechanism is just, well, it's without limits, really. Whenever you're moving data around, and if people said to me, what's the one thing you use VBA for that nothing else can do well? And I think that's true. You can design files that have better file structure, but if you have a pre-existing structure, the constraints of which you have to work with, you're going to have to move data around in that structure. The only way to do that is you can do it manually yourself. Yeah, you're going to get sick of that pretty quickly. Okay, you're going to have to learn some VBA. You can talk about Power Query. You can hit me up with anything you like. None of these tools are going to intelligently move data around for you if you don't have a proper data structure set up. Yes, if you're a professional and you've set all your data up properly, with all the data validation, you've got high data quality, great. Yeah, you don't need to be watching this. But the fact is, most people using Excel, they don't do that. It's not their fault. They just haven't had training to do it. They're normal people just trying to get through their workday. So they need mechanisms to help them move data around a file. This is one such mechanism. It's a great example of the power of Excel VBA. That's why in 2020, it should be the first coding language that you are learning. Good stuff. That's all for today then, guys. I'm looking forward to seeing you same time, same place tomorrow.